right, so get ready because we've got a stack of articles here about the NL Central, and it looks like things are about to get pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating season for sure. I mean, all five teams, the Cubs, Reds, Brewers, Pirates, and Cardinals, they've all made some significant moves this offseason, and we're here to kind of, break it all down.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go team by team
Yeah.
and really look at, who they brought in, but more importantly, what it all means for their chances this year.
Right. We're going beyond just the names and stats here. We're really trying to look at how these players might fit into each team's strategy and how they're going to address some of those, weaknesses they had last year.
Okay, well, let's jump right in, and how about we start with the Cubs? Because, wow, they really went all out this offseason. I mean, look at this list. Kyle Tucker from the Astros, Matt Shaw making his big league debut, Carson Kelly, Gage Workman, John Burdick.
Don't forget about the pitching side either. I mean, Matthew Boyd, Colin Rea, Ryan Presley, Ryan Brashear, Caleb Thielbar, they really made a point of bolstering both their offense and their pitching staff.
Yeah, it's almost overwhelming. I mean, are you okay over there?
I'm hanging in there, but yeah, it's a lot to process. Let's start with Kyle Tucker because that's a big get for the Cubs. He's been a consistent 4-5 WAR player.
Now, I know we throw WAR around a lot, but for our listeners who might not be familiar with that, what does that actually mean in terms of his impact on the field?
Sure, yeah. WAR stands for wins above replacement, and it's basically a way to measure a player's overall value to their team. So when we say a guy like Tucker is a 4-5 WAR player, it means he's likely contributing 4 to 5 more wins to the Cubs than a replacement level player would in that same role.
So basically, the Cubs are getting a guy who can really make a difference.
Absolutely. Now, another interesting addition is Matt Shaw. He's coming in with a ton of hype after just crushing it in the minors, but the projections for him are surprisingly low for a rookie season.
Yeah, I saw that too. What is the deal with that? I mean, the guy had a .534 sliding percentage at AAA. That's not exactly something you just ignore.
Oh, you're absolutely right. That kind of power is undeniable. I think the projections are just being a bit cautious because, rookie performance can be unpredictable. There's always an adjustment period to the majors. But what's exciting is that Shaw's power seems like the real deal. So while the projections might be low, I wouldn't be shocked if he blew past them.
So there's a chance he could be a real difference maker for the Cubs.
Absolutely. He could be the spark they need to take their offense to another level.
Okay, let's move on to the Reds. Now, they were a bit quieter than the Cubs, but they still made some strategic moves, bringing in guys like Gavin Lux, Austin Hayes, and Jose Trevino.
And they added Brady Singer to their starting rotation, plus a couple of relievers and Taylor Rogers and Scott Barlow.
What I find interesting about the Reds is that they seem to be very deliberately addressing their weaknesses, and in particular, the struggles they had at the bottom of the lineup last year.
All right, the article pointed out how their 8th and 9th hitters really struggled last season, batting a combined .212 with a really, really low on-base percentage. Now, if Lux and Hayes can even come close to their career averages, that's a huge upgrade for the Reds.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious about Jose Trevino, though.
Yeah.
He's not really known for his power hitting, is he? So is he there purely for his defense?
Well, he's definitely a strong defensive catcher, but he also brings something else to the table that's really valuable, a low strikeout rate. You see, that means he puts the ball in play a lot, which can be huge for a team that's looking to generate more runs, especially with runners on base.
So it's not always about hitting home runs. It's about finding ways to get on base and keep the line moving.
Precisely. And Trevino's ability to make contact and avoid those strikeouts could be a key piece of the puzzle for the Reds as they try to improve their offense.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating approach, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not just about the litters either. I mean, the Cubs also went out and added a whole bunch of pitchers to the mix.
Right. They completely overhauled their pitching staff, bringing in Matthew Boyd, Colin Rea, Ryan Presley, Ryan Brashear, and Caleb Thielbar.
It's like they're trying to cover all their bases.
Yeah.
Bringing in a bunch of different arms and just hoping that, some of them work out.
Well, it's not a bad strategy sometimes. You have to take some chances and see what sticks.
Speaking of chances, let's go back to the Reds for a second. We talked about Lux and Hayes, but the article also highlighted Brady Singer as a key addition to their rotation.
Singer's a good, solid pitcher.
Okay.
He's not going to blow you away with the strikeout numbers, but he consistently puts up good numbers, and he keeps his team in games.
That kind of consistency can be so valuable, especially for a team like the Reds that are trying to build some momentum.
Exactly. And you add in those guys like Lux and Hayes who have the potential to really produce some runs, and suddenly you've got a team that can be pretty dangerous.
Okay, so let's switch gears and talk about the Brewers. Now, they went in a very different direction, focusing almost entirely on pitching. What's the thinking there?
Well, the Brewers have always been known for their pitching. So, in a way, they're just doubling down on what they do best. I mean, bringing in Nestor Cortez from the Yankees was a big move.
Yeah, but he had a bit of a down year in 2023. Do you think he could bounce back and become the ace they're hoping for?
That's the big question, right? I think the Brewers are banking on his potential. They see a guy who's had success in the past, and they're betting that they can help him get back to that level.
It's a risk, but
Yeah.
sometimes you have to take those risks to get the rewards.
Exactly. And the Brewers are in a position where they can afford to gamble a little. They've got a solid lineup, so if Cortez can deliver, they could have a truly dominant pitching staff.
And they also picked up Caleb Durbin, who's kind of a utility guy. He had a really great year in AAA last year.
Durbin is an interesting player. He's not going to hit a ton of home runs, but he's got a good eye at the plate, and he can play multiple positions. That versatility can be so valuable over the course of a long season.
It's like having that extra tool in your toolbox. You can plug him in anywhere, and he'll get the job done.
Exactly. He's not flashy, but he's the type of player that can help you win those close games that often decide a division race.
Okay, let's move on to the Pirates.
Okay.
Now, they brought in a mix of veterans like Tommy Pham and Adam Frazier, along with a couple of relievers. But the player that really jumps out at me is Spencer Horwitz.
Horwitz is a fascinating case. He's coming off wrist surgery, so there are some question marks about his health. But if he can make a full recovery, he could be a big addition to their lineup.
The article mentioned that the Pirates really struggled to get on base last year, and Horwitz has the potential to really help them in that area.
Oh, absolutely. He's got a really patient approach at the plate, and he draws a ton of walks. He's not a power hitter, but he can set the table for the guys behind him.
So he's a potential leadoff guy, or at least a top-of-the-order type of hitter.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's something the Pirates desperately need, someone who can get on base consistently and create scoring opportunity.
Now, the Cardinals took a different approach. They didn't sign any new players, but they made a pretty significant change, moving Wilson Contreras to first base and giving Ivan Herrera the starting catcher job.
That's definitely a bold move, but it could pay off. Contreras is a good hitter, and moving him to first opens up a spot for Herrera, who's got a lot of potential and a really high on-base percentage.
So they're basically sacrificing some defense at catcher to try to boost their offense.
That's the trade-off, but the Cardinals are clearly betting on Herrera's offensive upside.
Yeah.
They're hoping he can give them a spark at the top of the lineup.
It's almost like they're playing 4D chess here.
Yeah.
Making these moves that might not make sense on the surface, but could have a big impact down the road.
Exactly. And then, of course, you've got the Nolan Arenado situation hanging over everything. I mean, we can't talk about the Cardinals without addressing those trade rumors.
Right. Let's talk about Arenado. Those
Yeah.
rumors have been swirling for weeks now. If they were to actually trade him, what kind of impact would that have on the Cardinals and the NL Central as a whole?
Trading Arenado would be a massive move for the Cardinals. He's a franchise cornerstone, a Gold Glove third baseman, and a consistent offensive threat.
It's hard to imagine the Cardinals without him. But if they do decide to move him, it would signal a pretty big shift in direction for the team.
Oh, it sends shockwaves through the entire league. Balance of power in the NL Central would definitely shift.
Teams would be lining up to try to acquire a player like Arenado, but the Cardinals would have to get a huge return in any trade, a package of young prospects and established players that could help them compete in the future.
It would be a blockbuster trade for sure.
Yeah.
And it would have a ripple effect on the whole division. Other teams might make moves in response, trying to adjust to the new landscape. Crazy to think about, right? One player, one trade could completely change everything.
And that's what makes this season so exciting, right? I mean, you've got these big names like Tucker over in Chicago trying to, lead their team to the top. Then you've got those underdog teams like the Reds trying to, prove everybody wrong. And then you've got the Cardinals with this whole Arenado thing hanging over their heads.
It's like a movie or something, or just sitting here watching all the drama unfold.
Speaking of watching,
Yeah.
what about our listeners? What should they be keeping an eye on as the season gets going? What are those key storylines or players that could really make a difference?
Well, for the Cubs, it all comes down to health and consistency. I mean, can Tucker, can he repeat what he did in Houston? Can their pitching staff stay healthy? And can Matt Shaw, can he live up to the hype and be that, impact rookie they're hoping for?
So many questions, right?
Oh.
What about the Reds? They made some smart moves, but can they really hang with the top teams in the division?
That's the big question mark for them, right? It all comes down to whether those guys at the bottom of the lineup can they actually produce some runs? Can Lux and Hayes be those guys? And can Singer be that reliable arm in the rotation that they need?
And, of course, we can't forget about the Brewers. They're really putting a lot of faith in Cortez. Can he be the guy they need him to be?
It's a gamble for sure, but if it pays off, it could be huge for them. And don't sleep on Durbin either. He might not be a superstar, but he could be a really valuable piece for them.
And then you've got the Pirates, hoping that Horwitz can come back strong and give them that boost at the top of the lineup.
It's a long shot, but you never know. And Ferrum, even though he's getting up there in age, he can still be a dangerous hitter.
And finally, the Cardinals. I mean, what's the plan there? Are they going all in with this new lineup, or are they just biding their time until they can trade Arenado?
That's the big mystery, right? If they
Right.
trade him, it's a sign that they're rebuilding. But if they keep him, it means they think they can compete right now.
So they're keeping everyone guessing.
Sad.
Exactly. The NL Central is wide open this year. It's going to be a battle.
Well said. All right, baseball fans, get ready for another wild ride in the NL Central, because this season is going to be a good one.